This is the World Outline screencast where we're going to talk about what you do once you have a root. And this screencast takes into consideration that you already have access to a server that is running the World Outline software, and you have the OPML editor on your desktop machine. You can see I have it down here, and it's all running and properly configured. So when you do that, you wind up with the screen here you see on my browser, which essentially shows you that you have access to the server, you're ready to go, and we're ready to create our first root. And this will help you get started to understanding some of the concepts of the World Outline. And there's a lot to it, so we're going to keep it pretty basic for today. First, we click on the New Root button, and you'll see that a new document shows up. We call that a root. It is untitled as of now. It gives you the size, which is very small, when it was created, when it was last modified, which are the same. Over to the right here, you will see a little XML button, an orange button. Now down at the bottom of the browser bar, you can see that it is actually a document called archive006.opml that is stored on the server, actually on the static server. You'll see here this little X that will delete this root should you want to. And we have a little preferences button here and an edit button. Now the first thing I want you to take a look at is the type. It automatically creates every root as the type blog post. Now this can be changed, and this is very important that we follow this step precisely to get the exact same results by clicking on this type, which is still selected as blog post. And if you look at the drop down here, there's a number of different node types you can choose from. And these will become important as you get into all of the great capabilities of the World Outline. But for the purposes of this screencast, I want you to select directory. And you can follow along with this, obviously, and probably do it after you've watched the video. It's not that hard to remember. So select directory, click OK. So it changes to directory, and we're ready to start editing our first root. So we'll do that by selecting the edit icon, which is right here, right in between the X for deleting and the XML icon. And what should happen is when you click that, an empty outline will open up. We'll expand this a little bit so we can see all of the groovy buttons there at the top. And it is, of course, untitled, just like it is here in the directory of all of your roots. So the first thing we'll do is we'll give it a title by clicking on the title bar, and I'll just call this My Stuff. There we go. And just to show you the interaction between the desktop and the server, we'll save this, wait for the little beep, and for some reason I'm not hearing the beep. But we'll go here and refresh this page, and you'll see that this is now changed to My Stuff. There you go. And if we were to click on this link here, which is now highlighted, that probably should take us to an empty page that just says My Stuff. Has a couple of buttons here, gives you some statistics. It's been read one time. There's only one item. There's a little slogan that we have underneath all of our nodes in the World Outline by default. Some attributes which you don't need to know for right now, and also an edit button, and again an XML button. I'm going to go back here, so we still have this page of our directory, and right here in the outline, and you do need to understand some basic concepts of outlining. I'm going to create a couple of top-level nodes. So I'll say first would be blog posts. I'm going to hit enter, return there, and I'll say to do, and over here I'll just put miscellaneous for miscellaneous, and I'm going to save that. Now you can click on the link here in your browser to look at what the page is turned into. You can also always just hit the view button here, and it will open up a new tab, and here you go. Here are my basic 3 items that I just put in there. Now, I like to just go over and refresh the page. I've used a lot of keyboard commands, so I'll just do a control refresh when I want to look at what the page is doing. So I'll actually click on My Stuff so we can see it rendering in real time. So you can see the correlation between the outline, what's happening there, and My Stuff over here. So let's start with a blog post. Now, a blog post would be very simple. We'd first give it a title. This is my first blog post. And we're going to hit return, and underneath that, and the way I indent that is by hitting the tab. I'll show you. You could also do it visually by hitting return. Creates a new node. You can click on it. You can drag it. See the little arrow? And now it's over here, and it's ready for editing. My name is Adam Curry, and this is my first blog post in the world outline. Good. So we're going to save that. Now let's go over here and refresh the page and see what the result has been. We see that blog post is now highlighted. Now remember, we created a directory node type for this root. So when we click on this, we're going to go to a new page, and it says this is my first blog post, and we're going to click on that, and underneath it'll say my name is Adam Curry, this is my first blog post in the world outline. Now that's not really a blog post, is it? Because we had to click. Very similar to over here, we went from blog post to this is my first blog post to my name is Adam Curry and this is my first blog post in the world outline. And we kind of went through it like it was a directory, which is correct because this root is actually a directory. Now let's change this node right here into an actual blog post. Now the way we do that is by highlighting this node, and we go to the outliner menu on the desktop here, go to world outline, and then set node type. Now you remember we had all those node types in our roots page? We had river and RSS and outline and blog post and directory. So here we're going to set it to a blog post. And we're going to click save. And now watch what happens. We're going to refresh this page. Again, you could also get to it by highlighting the actual node you want to see. We'll do that in a moment. Here's the blog post. I'm going to click on this. We see this is my first blog post. Now watch what happens. All of a sudden, it's turned into an actual blog post. Here we have the title. This is my first blog post. We have a little byline, which is a default in the template, which is the way a nice blog post would work. And here's my name is Adam Curry, and this is my first blog post in the world outline. So we actually have created a blog post. Now up at the top here, you'll see the crumb trail, which shows you how you got here, because this is a blog post contained in a directory. And this directory starts here at this top level with blog posts, to do, and miscellaneous. So if we wanted to have this as a standalone blog post, we'd want to have a way to set this to point to it instead of 1665.mediahackers.org blog post. This is my first blog post. We might want to create something a little more easier to remember. This is where blork marking comes in. So we'll highlight the blog post we actually want to create a blork mark for. Now watch this. As you click on blork mark, it's automatically going to give me a name. You can use this by default. You can also change whatever is in front of .blorkmark.com, but I'll just use this. Actually, I will change this just to make it fun. First AC blog post. There you go. We'll click OK. Now it gives me a little dialogue here saying I may have to wait up to 40 seconds for this new name to be registered, because what is actually happening here is the entire internet is being made aware of the fact that you now have a blog post at the internet address, the domain name, excuse me, the domain name firstacbp.blorkmark.com. So this is, as it said, it'll take about 40 seconds for that to come through, and then when it's all done, when the entire internet has been made aware, which is quite amazing when you think about it, as this is being done through the global domain name system, or DNS, it's pretty cool that the entire world will be able to get to this blog post just by typing in that address or by clicking a link that leads to this. And this is really how you can create a standalone. So while that's happening, I'm going to double click on this and collapse that node, and I'll say this is my second blog post. Here we go. Another one. And I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to set the node type, and I'm going to say that this is a blog post. There we go. And look what's happened. First acbp.blorkmark.com has been defined. So that kind of happened at the same time I was setting this as a blog post node type, which was just coincidence. But now let's go back to here. Now let's click on the view button and watch what happens. A new tab opens up with first acbp.blorkmark.com. The crumb trail is removed because this is a place where it wouldn't make a lot of sense for people to get to it through this particular DNS entry, and this is now my blog post. Pretty cool. Let's go back to make sure we save the outline here. Let's go back to blog posts, And you'll see that this is my second blog post has now showed up. And if we click on this, here's a second blog post, and I can go through the exact same process of creating a bookmark for this. So you can see that this becomes a very nice way to organize blog posts. You could even do a little bit more by creating a calendar structure as an example. So you could say 2012. Underneath that, we'd have 03 for the month. Underneath that, we'd have the day, which in this case would be the 14th. And if I wanted to, I could then move these two underneath there. I can save this. Now let's go back to the top of our root here. There's your blog posts. There's the year. There's the month. There's the day. And there's my blog post, the first blog post, the second blog post. But here's what's really awesome about the bookmarking is you can move these wherever you want, but the domain name entry remains the same. So if I click on view, it's still going to take me to firstacbp.bookmark.com. So this is a way that we don't break things in the structure of directories when we want to be able to publish a link to something such as a blog post. So now we're back at the roots page, and just going to show you what's under the little preferences gear icon here. There's a couple of things you can change. If you want, you can add comments that show up underneath each of your pages. You can actually enter a template. That will be for another World Outline screencast. And you could change the domain name itself of your entire root should you wish to do that. Right now it's 1665.mediahackers.org. But this is kind of the basics of your very first root. And you can see how nice it is to actually have a place in an outline where you can create all kinds of blog posts with their own addresses. But really, this is your workspace. This is where you create things, where you archive things, and as long as you have them bookmarked through the process that we described earlier, remember, here's the bookmark. You can change it if you wish, but it's for link rot, you want to keep it where it is. This is really the first foray into the World Outline and some of the incredible power that it harnesses. So in the next screencast, I'll show you how we could do a list, a collapsible list, an outline with our to-do list, and some other miscellaneous fun things we can do. But this should at least get you started with the basic concept. Now, that's not to say, and this is what's cool about the World Outline, is that you couldn't just have one outline as a blog post and just leave it at that, not having it categorized like this. So let me just show you that before we close this one out. I'll create a new root, untitled. I'm actually going to close this one out for now. I'm going to edit this by clicking on the edit button. And here we're going to say that it is a standalone root blog post. I'm going to save that. Now you'll see over here I didn't change it to directory. I kept it as a blog post. So here we could just say this, oops, this is a standalone blog post. This is a line that is indented. And here's some more text. And we'll click on that to save it. And we'll just go here and refresh this page. And we see it's called a standalone root blog post. It is a blog post type. We'll click on it, and you'll see that this is exactly what it is, a standalone root blog post. So you could keep it exactly like this if you want to. It has its own domain name. It's 1666, whoops, there you go, .mediahackers.org. And the way to change this would not be by setting a bookmark inside, because this is going to be a standalone document. The way to do that would be to change it here in the domain name. And of course, you'd have to have a domain name associated. But right now, it's 1667.mediahackers.org. So this is your first foray into blog posts as a node type inside of a document that can contain many blog posts, and a standalone blog post as a root that you just keep here. On the next one, as I said, we'll be delving into some other node types. Hopefully this gives you a first good experience with your very first root in the World Outline.